From a temple so old it rewrites the birth of civilization, buried on purpose under tons of backfill, to a forgotten kingdom on the edge of Spain that vanished so completely it's as if someone erased it from the map, to the scattered reports of giant skeletons uncovered across America before mysteriously disappearing into museum basements. This is every ancient history cover-up they never wanted you digging into. And trust me, while some of these tales sound like dusty archaeological footnotes, others point to something far stranger. Because once you notice how often the past gets rewritten, buried, or quietly corrected, you start to wonder what else they've taken from us, long before any of us were around to question it. Like Göbekli Tepe, Potbelly Hill, 11,600 years old, older than writing, the wheel, and agriculture, supposedly. And yet someone out there was carving 20-ton stone pillars like they were making garden furniture. You walk around those circles, you see scorpions, lions, vultures, the whole food chain carved in basically 4K pillar quality. But here's the part that makes my feathers stand on end. The entire site was buried, intentionally, layer by layer. Not eroded, not forgotten, buried. Like someone wanted to hide it from exactly the kind of detective who'd go sniffing around thousands of years later. And I don't buy the ritual burial excuse. That theory claims the builders purposely filled in Göbekli Tepe as some kind of ceremonial farewell, sealing the temple after its spiritual purpose was complete. But nothing about the precision or scale of that burial feels like a simple religious gesture. Not for a place like this. It's too clean, too methodical. Think about it. These weren't farmers, weren't city builders. According to our precious history books, they weren't even supposed to know how to carve a straight line. Yet somehow they hauled 20-ton pillars across the plateau and aligned them like they were building a blueprint for the world to come. So, why bury it? Maybe the builders weren't supposed to exist. Maybe evidence of advanced hunter-gatherers would wreck the tidy timeline we cling to. Or maybe they weren't hiding a structure from the future. They were hiding the future from the structure. There are carvings of headless men, predators in pursuit. Symbols, some folks say, sound like star maps making a cosmic disaster around 10,900 BCE. A comet, a solar event, something that scorched memory out of the earth. What if Göbekli Tepe wasn't just a temple? What if it was a warning? And once the builders saw what was coming, they buried it to protect it, preserve it, or lock away knowledge meant for a world that survived the firestorm. Because you don't bury a place like Göbekli Tepe unless you're scared of what'll happen if someone finds it. But hey, let's move forward a few thousand years, because the next cover-up, it's not buried under a hill, it's buried under politics. Picture this, the Indus Valley, cities with grid planning, drainage systems, and public baths. So advanced it makes medieval Europe look like a chicken coop. And yet we can't read a single sentence they wrote. Not one. 4,000 artifacts covered in symbols that nobody's cracked. Scholars shrug. Colonial archaeologists dismissed it. Modern academics argue about whether it's even a real script. But here's the thing. You don't carve tiny, precise markings into steatite seals for fun. That's a writing system. Someone understood it. Someone recorded trade, rituals, names, something important. But every time someone claims they deciphered it, the theory gets shot down, shelved, or drowned in academic red tape. Almost like the meaning behind that script threatens someone's version of history. But if the Indus Valley truly was literate and independent from the West, well, a whole lot of old imperial narratives could go up in smoke. And nobody likes rewriting a story when the original benefited them so nicely. Now, buckle up, kid, because we're flying into the desert next. Ancient Egypt. You know, the place everyone thinks is perfectly preserved, carved in stone, eternal as the pyramids. Yeah, well, let me tell you a secret. Egypt rewrote its own past more aggressively than any modern government ever dared. Take Hatshepsut, a powerful female pharaoh. She ruled with prosperity, built monuments, traded abroad, wore the beard, the titles, the crown. Then, poof, her successor chisels her name off the walls, removes her from king lists, reduces the queen of Egypt to a ghost. Then there's Akhenaten, the heretic king. He changed religion, rewrote the art, and moved the capital. The moment he died, Egypt scrubbed him off like he was a scratch on a tomb. Erased his gods, buried his city, pretended he never existed. Same with the mysterious Memkakere, a ruler so thoroughly blurred out that historians can't even agree on their gender. You don't erase people that hard unless they knew something or did something you couldn't let survive. And that's just the opening chapter. Now we're gliding into an era where the cover-ups stopped being subtle and started becoming state policy. And trust me, Once you see how easily an empire can erase a genius, you realize how fragile history really is. Let's perch first on the marble steps of ancient Greece, a place overwhelming with intentions that look suspiciously modern. The hero of Alexandria built steam engines before steam engines were a thing. Automatic doors, coin-operated machines, mechanical theaters with pulleys and gears timed so precisely they could mimic life. These weren't toys. They were prototypes for technology 1,000 years ahead of schedule. So why don't we talk about them? Well, step in, Rome. The big feathers, the muscle, the empire that swallowed everything and slapped its own name on it. Rome didn't build technology. Rome appropriated it. And anything that didn't fit the narrative of Roman superiority got quietly downgraded. They preferred slaves over machines, preferred predictable labor over disruptive invention. A population that depends on chains is easier to control than a population powered by engines. You ever wonder why the Antikythera mechanism, a literal ancient computer, got zero mention in Roman records? Not one text, not one scholar saying, oh look, a clockwork map made of the... Either they didn't understand it, or they understood it too well. A device that accurately destabilizes power. It hands knowledge to people the empire wanted ignorant. And knowledge? That's more dangerous than any army. Empires bury what threatens them, sometimes literally. Now, flap east with me, across deserts and dynasties, into a moment so violent it still echoes through the bones of history. The Qin dynasty's book burning. Picture the emperor, Qin Shi Huang, obsessed with immortality, obsessed with control. Obsessed with unifying China under a single window, his. So he ordered all dangerous knowledge to be destroyed. Philosophy, history, science, medicine, gone. And the scholars who defended these texts, buried alive. 460, according to the chronicles. Some say fewer, some say more, but the message was clear. The past was a threat. Ideas were the enemy. History books dress this up as political consolidation. But tell me, why target astronomy? Why target cosmology? Why destroy medical texts unless they contain something the emperor feared competing with? A secret formula? Forbidden science? Alternative models of the universe? The paranoia in that act is unmistakable. And believe me, I can recognize my own kind. But if you want a disappearing act worthy of a detective's nightmares, we need to drift west again, to the coast of ancient Spain, where Tartessos flickered between myth and reality like a kingdom that shouldn't exist. The Greeks wrote about it, the Phoenicians traded with it, a kingdom rich in metal, culture, and mystery. And then it vanishes. No capital, no tombs, no language, no ruins large enough to match the legends. Some say they were wiped out by invasion. Some say climate collapse. But others, the ones with eyes like mine, think Tartessos was deliberately erased. Its ports controlled Mediterranean trade. Its wealth threatened rising powers. And wealthy kingdoms make enemies far more efficiently than warriors do. Maybe the Phoenicians buried it. Maybe the Carthaginians did. Maybe Rome finished the job. But cultures don't vanish this cleanly unless someone with reach made sure the sand swallowed them. That's the thing about ancient history. Everything we know is what survived someone else's decisions. And the real story? That's whatever they chose to burn, break, bury, or rewrite along the way. Every time humanity uncovers something that doesn't fit the approved timeline, someone swoops in with a broom and a nervous smile, muttering, "Ignore that, nothing to see here." And nowhere is that clearer than in the oldest writing system, almost lost to medicine cabinets. Let me take you to early China, back when scholars accidentally discovered the oracle bones, the earliest known Chinese script. But these weren't found in golden tombs or royal archives. No. These priceless artifacts were found ground into powder and sold as folk medicine. Imagine that, 3,000-year-old inscriptions, crushed up and swallowed like calcium tablets. And when scholars finally realized what they were looking for, the trail went cold. Entire collections vanished during political upheavals. Some bones were misplaced, others mysteriously destroyed, and a few, the juiciest ones with strange symbols, ended up in a private ownership, locked behind doors where sunlight and historians don't reach. I've handled enough destroyed evidence in my career to know this wasn't coincidence. Scripts this old rewrite the story of human literacy. They hint at older systems, older knowledge. older civilizations. And every time we find something older than expected, the gatekeepers of history tighten their grip and change the locks. But if you want to cover up with the smell of dust, incense, and desperation, follow me into the Dunhuang Cave Library. Back in 1900, a monk discovered a sealed chamber stuffed with nearly 50,000 scrolls, songs, letters, tax forms, maps, manuals, even lost sutras, a full-blown time capsule of a forgotten world. And what did the authorities do? They resealed it, hid it, acted like a chamber full of priceless documents was just an inconvenience they needed to tuck away. When the chamber finally opened again, foreign explorers bought the scrolls for pocket change. Some were taken, some were lost in transport, and some, the most controversial ones, were whispered to have disappeared even before Western scholars arrived. Rumor has it they're still sealed rooms under the sands of Dunhuang, the kind of rooms where history sleeps behind a door nobody wants to open, because the truth inside might embarrass more than a few textbooks. But if ancient scrolls don't ruffle your feathers, let's talk about bones. Big bones. Bones that should have rewritten American prehistory, but instead ended up in the margins of newspapers and the basements of institutions that swear they'd never seen them. I'm talking about giant skeletons. Reports from the 1800s and early 1900s describing remains 7, 8, even 9 feet tall, dug up from burial mounds across the United States. Double rows of teeth, elongated skulls, artifacts found beside them that didn't match the known indigenous cultures. And almost every time, the bones disappeared, donated to science, sent to museums, misplaced in inventory. Funny how evidence always evaporates when it threatens the story we're supposed to believe. Whether these giants were misidentified skeletons, ceremonial exaggerations, or something far more unsettling, we'll never know, because someone made sure the trail went cold. And cold trails, they smell like cover-ups. Which brings us to the last cover-up, the crown jewel of misdirection, Atlantis. People act like Atlantis is the biggest mystery of the ancient world. A lost city, a sunken empire with insane advanced technology. But here's what a detective like me sees: a distraction. A shiny object waved in front of the public so they don't ask about the real lost civilizations, the ones we covered in this case file. While everyone else argues about Poseidon and crystals, the truth hides beneath layers of sand, stone, and silence. Maybe Atlantis existed, maybe it didn't, but the way it dominates the conversation, kid, that feels engineered. If you ever want to hide 10 secrets, you put a spotlight on one myth and let the world chase its tail. Because the oldest trick in the book isn't burying history, it's convincing you to look in the wrong direction. Look, I need to go. I said too much already. You start pulling at threads this old, and sooner or later, something starts pulling back. But if you think ancient kingdoms burying their secrets is bad, just wait until you see what modern empires do. The ones with cameras, contracts, and if you're ready to step out of the ruins and into the spotlight, follow me to the next file. The Hollywood conspiracy theories they really don't want me opening.